Hello and welcome to episode 3 of my knitting podcast. My name is Annika and I'm coming to you from Germany. I am a natural yarn dyer and an avid knitter, but I also like to crochet, embroider, and I'm currently thinking about getting myself a spinning wheel as well. So I basically love all things fiber arts. Let's get started. In this episode, I am going to show you my recently finished objects and also talk about my current knitting projects. And in addition, I am going to share some new acquisitions with you as well. I recently had the chance to visit the yarn shop Retrosaria in Lisbon in Portugal. And I'm going to show you a couple of pictures from the yarn shop as well as show you what I got there. But first of all, let's start with what I'm wearing today. I'm wearing the first sweater that I ever made. The design is called Strokkur, I guess, and the designer is Isolde Teague. I knitted this sweater in the recommended yarn, which is Ístex Léttlopi, which is a rather rustic Icelandic yarn, and I really love both the sweater and the yarn. I still cannot believe that it even fits me. I will never forget the feeling when I put the sweater on for the very first time. It is knit bottom up, so I basically first put it on once it was completely finished, and I was so proud of myself and I couldn't believe that I really was able to make a garment that I could wear. I had no idea how to knit a sweater, about the whole construction, and I had never done color work before, so it was a very proud moment for me, and I think it really started this journey of creating a handmade wardrobe for myself. By the way, I'm going to link everything that I will talk about, whether it's yarn, a pattern or something else, in the description box below for you. Let's start with finished objects. I have talked about this project before. It is the Timepiece Cardigan and the designer is Iona McLaughlin. I knit this cardigan in Nutiden yarn, so in Unspun yarn, and I showed it to you as a work in progress in the last episode, and now it's finished and I've already worn it and I'm very happy with it. But there are a couple of things I wanted to mention about this project. First of all, it was my first time knitting with Nutiden yarn, and I originally intended to hold the yarn single, and I purchased 300 grams of this colorway for the project. It is called Livslinje and it was part of the January update of this year. It's a very beautiful pink colorway with a gray undertone, and it has some specks of red all throughout. I really like the color, but I have to say it was very different knitting with unspun yarn compared to the regular spun yarn. I noticed that the yarn was breaking on me a lot and I was not able to hold it single because it was just too fragile. That's why I opted to hold the yarn double and knit the cardigan, and this worked out quite well. However, I didn't have quite enough yarn, so I played a severe game of yarn chicken and I only have a very tiny amount left, maybe like 2 or 3 grams at this point. And that's why I had to make the body a bit more cropped than I originally intended to. And I also had to make 3/4 length sleeves because there was simply not enough yarn. I modified the sleeves quite a bit. In the pattern they are written as a tapered sleeve, so you do regular decreases as you knit from the top down. But I wanted more of a balloony look, so I didn't do any decreases and decreased quite heavily in the end and made a couple of rounds of purl stitches before, like as a cuff, like a very small cuff before I bound off. And I also didn't do either buttons or buttonholes because I intended to wear the cardigan open all the time anyway. Especially I had one particular dress in mind that I have, a linen dress. If you have watched other videos of me before, you might have seen it. It is a very light beigey gray linen dress with buttons. So this was why I made this cardigan, in order to wear it on top of it once it's still too cold to wear the dress on its own. The pattern was very well written. You get both a DK weight and an Aran weight version within the same pattern. I did the Aran weight version and I knitted the cardigan on a 3.5 and 4 millimeter needle. Let me check. This is corresponds to a US 4 and a US 6 needle. I did the body in the smaller needle size and used the larger needle size for the sleeves. However, you can still tell the difference in the gauge, although I changed the needle size. Well, try to show you. Oh wow, now it's falling off. Try to show you what I mean. You can see maybe that in the part where I was knitting flat, so knitting on the right side and purling on the wrong side, the gauge is significantly larger compared to the sleeves where I was knitting in the round. This issue is called rowing out, I think, when your purl stitches are looser than your knit stitches, and you can usually just tuck on them a bit while you knit, after you knitted each stitch, or you purled each stitch. But since the yarn was so fragile, I wasn't sure if this would work, and I was really careful with it. And now you can really see the difference in the gauge. I'm not very fond of this to be honest. I don't think you can really tell when I'm wearing the cardigan, but this is something I will have to be more mindful when knitting with unspun yarn in the future. But overall, it was a very enjoyable project, and since it's an Aran weight, it worked up really quickly, and it's a very comfortable and cozy cardigan to wear. Let's move on to works in progress. The first project I want to show you is this pair of socks that I'm currently working on. The pattern is called Hermione's Everyday Socks, and it is a pattern by Erika Lüder. It is a very popular pattern and it's actually free, so I'm going to link it for you in the description box. Like I said, I already finished the first sock and I am currently working on the second sock. I'm just finished the heel turn, and now I need to add the foot. The yarn I'm using is my own yarn. This is Luster Sock TK in the undyed colorway, which is called Snow. My plan with this is to knit the socks and dye them afterwards with natural dyes. So normally you dye the yarn first and then knit with it afterwards. But I decided to experiment a bit, and I'm planning to do either some eco printing or some bundle dyeing once the socks are finished. I'm really interested to see how this will turn out, and of course I'm going to report back to you. The needle size I'm using is a US 0 or 2 millimeter needle. I pretty much always use 2 millimeter needles when I knit socks because I like a really tight gauge, and it also helps when you knit with all natural sock yarns. So this is a non-superwash 100% German merino wool yarn, and in order to increase the stability, one of the tricks is to knit it at a tight gauge. By the way, if you want to learn how to knit long-lasting sturdy socks using all natural sock yarns, I have written a free guide where I show you my best tips and tricks. I am going to link it for you in the description box, and you can download it for free if you like. The next project I want to talk about is a summer top. Here it is. Can you see that? I've made quite good progress on the body already. It has a beautiful lacy border at the bottom and then a simple striped motif, and it is going to be a tank top. The pattern is called On Avel and the designer is Josephine and the Seeds. I have talked about this pattern before. I think I also mentioned it in my previous podcast episode in the dream knitting section. And I think I also showed you the yarn for it. So the yarn I'm using is a 100% linen yarn called Lino Muka by Wollen Berlin. It is a very fine yarn and I am holding it double because it was just such a fine gauge when I did a gauge swatch only with one strand of yarn. I purchased the cream colorway and I naturally dyed the light pink myself using cochineal. And the pattern is originally written to stop the stripe pattern and then continue only with the main color for the upper portion of the top. Unfortunately, since I am holding the yarn double now, I am almost out of the pink yarn. So I will have to change colors and complete the upper portion of the top with the undyed cream colorway. But I still think it's going to look fine. It's just a bit different from the pattern. Another thing I wanted to mention about the yarn, I really like the feel of it and I think it's going to be a very nice top for summer, but linen is difficult to work with, at least for me. The yarn gets tangled up very easily and that's why I'm keeping each colorway in a separate little bag within my project bag, because I started without those little bags and it was just a tangled mess everywhere. And it still gets tangled up so easily. I always have to check and I'm pulling both from the inside and the outside of each ball to get the 2 strands of each color. But yeah, it's not my favorite to work with, but like I said, I think it's going to be very comfortable to wear in the hot summer days that are going to be coming rather sooner than later, I think. The next project I'm currently working on is also new to this podcast, and it is a dress, a girl's dress to be precise. Let me see if I can show you. You start at the bottom with a small section of seed stitch, then you have this simple lace motif, and then the rest of the skirt is mainly stockinette. It is a very beautiful pattern called the Clara Dress and the designer is Karin Westergaard Mathiesen. The pattern is actually available for free, but it is a bit tricky to find. I think you can also purchase it, but if I'm not mistaken, it is only available in Danish. But anyway, I'm going to link the pattern that I use down below. And like I said, I'm using a free English pattern. I have actually made this dress before. I knitted this version for my daughter when she was about 2 years old. So this is how it looks once it's finished. You have another simple lace section in the upper body part and some more seed stitch here and also here. And I think it's a very, very cute dress for a little girl. It has this teardrop opening in the back and you finish it off with a button. So I made this one, the pink one, for my daughter when she was 2 years old, and for my other daughter I made this turquoise version. This fitted her when she was 4 years old. I gave it to her on her 4th birthday. My girls loved these dresses. They wore them quite a lot and they are very sturdy because I knit them out of a 100% cotton yarn. The company, let me see, here it is called Scheer. I think that's how you say it. and it is a Dutch company. The yarn base is called Sunkist, and they have quite an array of very vibrant colorways that kids really tend to like. So I have the turquoise one, the pink one, and now I'm knitting the purple one. This is actually going to be a birthday present for one of my nieces, who is going to turn 5 at the beginning of May. So this is currently my main knitting project because I would really like to finish it in time for her birthday, to give it to her on her birthday and not as a belated birthday gift. I have only started knitting on this when we came back from our vacation in Portugal, so 5 days ago, and I think I've made quite a good progress since then, so I'm hoping that the dress will be finished in time. I am kind of alternating skeins, so whenever I have used up like about 2/3 of one ball, I am introducing a second skein and alternate skeins each round in order not to create any harsh lines. I'm not sure if this is even necessary because it is a conventionally dyed yarn and it is quite mild anyway, but just to be safe, I am alternating. Again, I am knitting this project on a 3.25mm needle, which is a US 3. And if you are looking for a 100% cotton yarn in vibrant colorways, I can highly recommend this yarn. Like I said, I have knitted the dresses for my girls years ago. I think it was maybe 6 years ago. We have washed them countless times. You can simply throw it in the washing machine with all of your other garments and they come out fine. They have held up great and they are also comfortable to wear. The colorway I'm using for the purple dress is called Ultraviolet. The turquoise I used is Poolside, I think. Yeah, Poolside. And the pink is Beach Hut Pink, in case you're interested. And I think that's all I have to say about the Clara dress. My next work in progress is something you have seen before, and it is my pillow covers. I have been working on this project for quite some time. I think I started it last fall, but I quickly realized that pillow covers take quite some time to work up, especially since you don't need only one, but 2 pieces for each pillow cover. The yarn I'm using is again Ístex Léttlopi, so the same yarn that I used for my sweater. It was actually left over from the sweater and I had to order a couple more skeins in order to complete these 2 sides. I am making the pattern up as I go, but it's very simple. You knit all the stitches on the right side and you do purl knit on the wrong side, so you get this beautiful broken rib, which I quite like. And I didn't make only 1 pillow cover but 2, so I also have this one. It's rolling up a bit on itself because it's completely knitted in stockinette stitch. And I also have the second piece completed. The plan for this pillow cover is to block it now, weave in all the ends, and then do some simple embroidery on top of it. And then all there's left to do is sew it up, and I'm also going to insert a zipper. I was originally hoping to have this project done in time for the last winter season so that we could have enjoyed the pillow covers on our couch in the living room, but I think it's way too late now. It feels very spring-like at the moment, and I think I'll just keep them for the next fall and winter season. But I have to say I'm very happy that I got so far along and I can move on to other projects now. Let's move on to acquisitions now. After I finished my Timepiece Cardigan, I was very much in love with Nutiden yarn, so I participated in the next shop update, which was in March, and I bought this colorway. It is a pinkish red and it is called Apostrophe. I really liked the sample that Caroline, the owner of Eir, knitted with it. It was like some type of vest, and I bought 500 grams of this colorway. I am planning on making myself a dress, but I want to use only one strand of Nutiden this time. So I'm holding off on the project for a bit for now in order to practice knitting with unspun yarn a bit more before I can tackle this dress. And in order to practice knitting with unspun yarn, I also purchased a surprise bag, I think they are called, from Nutiden or from Eir. And you get 200 grams of Nutiden yarn, but you don't know which colorways you are going to get, and there's like just an assortment of smaller plates. So I'm going to show you now what I got. I have this beautiful cake and also this very fresh spring-like green. Then I got this, it's also very, very pretty. And let me see if I can stack them. I also have this interesting green purple and one more, this brown. I was so excited when I got the package from Sweden, and I also filmed a video talking about my experience of knitting with unspun yarn. I'm going to link it for you if you're interested. In the video I am unboxing the package, and I am planning on making socks with these yarns. There is I think it's not a pattern but rather a recipe for the Clara socks by Miss Evil Knits. There is no written pattern available, but she recorded several videos that you can watch on YouTube where she shows you how she knits the Clara socks. I think it is a toe-up pattern, and I'm very interested in making the socks, both for practicing knitting with unspun yarn and also to see how socks in unspun yarn will hold up, because I only knit socks with all natural non-superwash yarns, and it will be very interesting for me to compare a sock knit out of Nutiden yarn compared to a sock knit out of one of my own sock yarn bases, which are all spun. I will definitely keep you updated and show you my progress, hopefully even in the next episode. Next up, I would like to talk about my visit to the yarn shop Retrosaria in Lisbon, Portugal. The owner is Rosa Pomar, and it is a very beautiful shop. If you are ever in Lisbon and get the chance to go to the shop, I can highly recommend it. They have a beautiful array of sustainable, all-natural yarns in lovely colorways, and everyone was so friendly and the shop was very beautiful. I don't really have a yarn shop near me, so I took this opportunity while we were in Lisbon on vacation to have a look at the shop. And since it is my birthday next month, my husband kindly nudged me to purchase the yarns that I really liked there, because it's going to be his birthday present to me. I am usually very mindful about the yarns I buy, and I pretty much only buy yarn whenever I have a specific project for it in mind. But as you will be able to see in a second, I purchased quite a lot, and I do have projects planned for all of the yarns, but it's still going to be quite some time before I will be able to use all of them. Since I have started knitting with unspun yarn lately, I of course had to check out the unspun yarn there as well. I got this beautiful, beautiful shade of light blue, I guess, with a hint of purple and some flecks of pink, and it also has a gray undertone. This is an unspun yarn from the Spanish company WoolDreamers, and the yarn range is called Manchelopis. It is made from Spanish wool, and I think it looks very lovely and it feels very airy and soft. The yarn is already wound up with 2 strands within the plait, so you are supposed to knit with it holding it double. I am actually planning to knit myself a hat out of this yarn. I designed a simple colorwork hat for Making Stories as part of their winter celebration a couple of years ago, and I think I'm going to make this pattern with this yarn. The pattern is called Schneeflöckchen, which means little snowflake in German, and like I said, it is a simple colorwork hat. I have some unspun white or cream yarn from Léttlopi left, and I think I'm going to use the white along with this beautiful blue. Did I mention the colorway? I think it's called Azul Indigo, if I'm not mistaken. Alright, let's move on. I have quite a bit more to show you. If you know Retrosaria by Rosa Pomar, you might also know their popular sock yarn base Mondim. It is a fingering weight, non-superwash, all-natural sock yarn that is made completely out of Portuguese wool. Here it is in the undyed version, and I'm planning to naturally dye this skein myself. But since I had my whole family with me in the yarn shop, my girls also got very excited when they saw the beautiful array of Mondim colorways, and they each picked out a skein as well. So I also got this very vibrant yellow, which is the colorway A579, and this speckled colorway. It's very pretty blue and green shades, and this is the colorway 214. My girls have asked me to knit some mittens, fingerless mittens for them, which I'm going to do, and I might also make a pair of socks for each of them. Let's see. But I'm very happy with the selection, and what's really great about Retrosaria is that they have swatches of all of the speckled and variegated colorways next to all of the skeins, so you can see beforehand, before you purchase a skein, how the colorway is going to look knitted up, and I find that very useful. Another company that they had several yarn bases of in the shop is Isager, the Danish company, and I could not resist and I purchased 3 skeins or balls in this natural colorway. The yarn is Isager Bomulin, and it is a blend of cotton and linen. I am planning on making a summer top with it, and I think I'm going to make the Joni top by Natasha Hornby from Moonstruck Knits. I have had this pattern in my favorites for quite some time now, and I think I even talked about it on my last episode. I definitely mentioned it in my video where I was talking about knitting projects for spring and summer. I'm going to link it for you in case you're interested in watching this as well. I am still contemplating whether I will just use the colorway as is or if I'm going to naturally dye it. I'm thinking about using nettles because they are currently coming up here all over the place, and you can create a very beautiful either shade of soft yellow or even a sagey green colorway with nettles. We'll see, I'll keep you updated on this as well. And since we are already on the topic of Natasha Hornby, you probably know Moonstruck Knits already because she has some very, very beautiful designs. But if you don't, you should totally check her out. I was researching about her patterns online and I came across one of the Fruity Knitting episodes where Andrea interviewed Natasha Hornby, and in this interview Natasha Hornby was wearing a new design of her, new at that time, it has been released now for quite some time I think, and it is a sweater called Maeron, I think. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I'm going to put it up for you on the screen. It is a very interesting construction because it is knitted sideways in 2 colors. And yeah, when I was at Retrosaria, I could not resist and had to purchase some yarn for this project as well. So I bought these 2 colorways. They are by the Spanish company WoolDreamers as well. And the base is called Saona. Let me see if I can find the colorway names. The grayish blue one is called 1985 and the natural one is called Ozeda. And like I said, I'm going to be making the Maeron sweater with it. This is I think it's a cotton wool blend and it feels very, very soft and nice. I already made a swatch, as you can see. It's very nice and drapey. It's also a very fine gauge, so it will take a little bit of time, but I think it will be very well worth it because it's such a beautiful sweater. And Natasha Hornby actually has several more patterns that I would really like to knit. I think her design aesthetic is just so beautiful and stunning. One more thing I wanted to mention: when I uploaded a video about knitting with Unspun yarn recently, I got the comment from a viewer asking how the different brands of Unspun yarn compare, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to cover this quickly here. So, as I already mentioned, I have already used the Nutiden yarn from Eir. I have also used Léttlopi by Ístex, and now I also got Manchelopis from WoolDreamers here. I have not knitted with this though, but if let's start off comparing how the yarns feel. I know that Nutiden yarns differ a bit from colorway to colorway, depending on the sheep breeds that gave their wool for the plates or the colorways. But this one is very soft and airy, so this is the apostrophe, and it's very similar to the Liv's Linie that I used to knit the Timepiece Cardigan with. So very airy, very light, but also very fragile. If I compare it with the Manchelopis yarn, Manchelopis feels a little bit denser in the plate, but this could also be due to the fact that the yarn is wound up in 2 strands in here. It looks a little bit smaller. And if I have a look at the strands, let's see if you can see that as well. I think the Manchelopis looks a bit finer and less airy, but I would say the softness is very similar, and it's just a tiny bit less squishy than the Nutiden yarn. If we have a look at the Léttlopi now, I'm not sure if you will be able to tell it, but it is quite a bit denser than the Manchelopis and the Nutiden. So if I would have to rank them by softness, I would say Nutiden is the softest, closely followed by the Manchelopis, and Léttlopi is the most rustic. The same goes for airiness, so Nutiden seems to be the most airy and Léttlopi seems to be the densest. However, if you are a beginner when it comes to knitting with Unspun yarn, I think that using the Léttlopi first will be probably the easiest for you. I didn't experience a lot of breakage when I worked with Léttlopi, and I find knitting with Nutiden yarn a lot more challenging. Like I said, I have not used the Manchelopis before, but I will for sure share my experience with you once I get knitting the hat with it that I plan to make. In order not to make this video too long, I think I'm going to end things here. Thank you so much for watching. Please let me know in the comments what you are currently working on. I would love to know. And don't forget to like and subscribe. Until next time. Bye guys.